When my son suggested I go to a nursing home to make room for his father-in-law, I did something he never imagined. I sold our house and disappeared. I don't know if you'll understand me. Maybe you'll think I'm a stubborn old man, that I overreacted. But you haven't lived through what I lived through. My name is Winston. I'm 71 years old. Until recently, I'd been living in the same house for 42 years, a house I built with these hands, brick by brick. I lost my Eleanor 3.5 years ago. 45 years married. Do you know what it's like to lose the person you shared your whole life with? It's like having half your soul torn away. But I had my family, my son Michael, 45 years old, my daughter-in-law Rebecca, 43, and my grandchildren, Ethan, 12, and Emma, 9. After Eleanor passed, they moved in to help me through the grief. We became a household of 5 under one roof. If this story touches you in some way, please share it so it can reach more folks who've been through something similar. Every morning I'd get up at 5. I'd make coffee, strong and black, the way Eleanor taught me. The aroma would drift through the whole house, gently wake everyone up. It was my way of saying good morning without words. Then I'd tend to the garden out back. Eleanor's flower beds, roses, petunias, marigolds. In the afternoon, I'd sit in my old rocking chair on the front porch, watch the neighborhood, chat with folks passing by. The grandkids would sometimes join me. "Grandpa, tell me about when you were young," Ethan would ask. "Grandpa, help me with the garden," Emma would beg. It was a simple life, but full of purpose. I felt important, needed. Then came that day that changed everything. Rebecca came home in tears. "Dad, my father just became a widower." Her father, Harold, had lost his wife after 38 years together. Dorothy died of a sudden heart attack. "Oh, Dad, he's completely lost. Doesn't even know how to heat up a TV dinner. He's been living on crackers and canned soup." I looked at her and remembered my own pain when I lost Eleanor. That feeling of being adrift without anchor. "What if he comes to stay with us for a while?" Rebecca suggested. Michael agreed right away. "Of course, honey. Your dad must be going through exactly what my dad went through." And I, who understood a widower's pain all too well, said, "He's welcome here. He can stay as long as he needs to heal." What a mistake I made saying, "as long as he needs." Harold arrived on a Thursday afternoon, a 65-year-old man, silver hair neatly combed, clothes always crisp. He brought 2 suitcases and the hollow look of fresh grief. "Winston, I can't thank you enough. It's just until I figure things out." I gave him my bedroom. After all, he was a guest in mourning. I moved to the small guest room at the back of the house. "It's temporary," I told myself. The first few days were actually comforting. 2 widowers sharing stories about loss. He'd talk about Dorothy, I'd talk about Eleanor. We'd sit on the porch together, 2 men learning to be alone. But gradually things started shifting. First came the helpful suggestions. Harold had worked at City Hall for 30 years, knew about construction and maintenance. "Winston, that water stain on the ceiling, you'll want to check for roof damage before winter. This loose handrail, I could tighten that up for you." Michael was impressed. "Wow, Harold, you really know your way around home repairs." 42 years maintaining my own house, and suddenly I needed help with things. Then came the improvements. Harold started fixing problems I hadn't even noticed. He rewired outlets, cleaned gutters, touched up paint. "You've got such skilled hands, Harold," Michael praised. "The house is looking better than ever." There I was on the porch, watching another man renovate the home I'd built. But I reasoned, at least it's keeping his mind off his grief. Weeks turned into months. Harold settled in deeper. He brought his favorite armchair, hung Dorothy's portrait, sold his condo. "Dad, Harold really has nowhere else to go now," Rebecca explained. "Is it okay if he stays longer?" "Of course, sweetheart." But something was shifting inside me and I didn't like it. You see, you lose your place slowly. It's not a sudden shove out the door. It's like erosion. By the time you notice the damage, half the foundation is gone. Harold was an early riser too. He started making the morning coffee, milder than mine, more to everyone's taste. "What wonderful coffee, Harold," Rebecca would say every morning. My strong brew, the way I'd made it for decades, sat ignored in the pot. I started making just one cup just for myself. On the porch, he'd settle into the chair next to mine. He'd wave to neighbors, share stories about his days at City Hall. He was more sociable than me, more entertaining. Mrs. Patterson, my neighbor of 40 years, started greeting him first. "Morning, Harold. How are you settling in?" "Oh, hello there, Winston." I became an afterthought. The grandchildren started gravitating toward him. Harold would get down on the floor for games, help with homework, had endless patience. I'd always been quieter, more reserved. "Grandpa Harold, tell us about the time you helped build the new bridge," Ethan would beg. "Grandpa Harold, can you help me with my math?" Emma would ask. They started calling me Grandpa Winston and him simply Grandpa Harold. Suddenly, I needed my full name to be identified in my own home. One evening at dinner, Michael brought up renovating the guest bathroom. "Harold, what's your opinion? Think it's worth upgrading the shower?" Harold gave detailed advice about fixtures, costs, contractors. Michael hung on every word. I waited for someone to ask what I thought. It was my house, my money that would pay for it, but they discussed it as if I weren't sitting right there. "Dad, what do you think?" Michael finally asked, almost as an afterthought. "Sounds like you've already decided." "That's fine." But it wasn't fine. Nothing about waiting for permission to speak in my own home was fine. Have you ever felt invisible in your own house? It's the strangest thing. You're breathing, you're present, but somehow nobody really sees you anymore. The months rolled on. Harold made himself completely at home. He claimed half the master closet, kept Dorothy's photo on what used to be Eleanor's nightstand. My house had become our house, then his house, and I had become the guest. I remember one Sunday that broke something in me. We'd always gathered in the living room after Sunday dinner. I'd sit in my recliner, the one I'd saved up for years to buy, facing the television. When I walked in that day, Harold was sitting there. Deep in conversation with Michael, grandkids gathered around his feet. My chair, my spot, occupied. I sat on the couch instead, watched my family, my living room, my life from the sidelines. I felt like an intruder in my own home. "Dad, come sit over here," Michael said, patting the couch cushion beside him. I sat, but the feeling of displacement was overwhelming. In the house I'd built with my own hands, I was out of place. I started leaving the house more often, long trips to the pharmacy, the bank, the hardware store. I looked for places where people still knew my name, still valued what I had to say. Because at home, if I disappeared for hours, nobody seemed to notice. But if Harold stepped out briefly, his return was an event. "Harold, how did your appointment go? Did you get everything sorted out?" One night I got up for a glass of water. I saw Eleanor's wedding photo on the kitchen counter, moved aside to make room for Harold's vitamin bottles. I picked up her picture, traced her face with my finger. "Eleanor, what am I supposed to do? I feel like a stranger in our home." I whispered it, but the truth echoed loud in my heart. A stranger in the place I'd built for love. I'm asking you folks listening to this, have you ever felt forgotten by your own family? Ever watched yourself become unnecessary in your own life? The worst was yet to come. On a Tuesday morning, I was on the porch when I overheard hushed conversation drifting from the kitchen. "Can't continue like this. He's withdrawing more every day. Might be better for everyone." I assumed they were talking about Harold, finally realizing he'd overstayed his welcome. Michael approached me that afternoon, pulling up a chair beside my rocker. "Dad, we need to talk." I kept rocking, watching the street. "I'm listening." "Rebecca and I have been talking. We've noticed you seem different lately. Distant. Unhappy." I remained silent. How could I explain that I felt erased in my own home? "We've been looking into some options. There's a beautiful senior community about 20 minutes from here. Sunny Acres. It's more like a resort than anything. Activities, people your age to talk to, organized trips." The world stopped spinning. Senior community, nursing home. "Dad, you'd have so much more social interaction there. Here at home you spend too much time alone." "Alone?" I was alone because they'd pushed me to the margins. "What about Harold?" I asked quietly. "Oh, he'll stay here, of course. He's been such a help with the house, and Rebecca needs him close by." There it was, crystal clear. Room for him, no room for me. "Dad, you don't have to decide right now." "I understand, Michael. Let me think it over." But I'd already decided. Just not what he expected. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, listening to my family's voices, their laughter, life continuing without me. There I was, in the back bedroom, like a piece of furniture they'd outgrown. I got up and looked out at Eleanor's garden in the moonlight. Harold had been watering it faithfully. Even my wife's flowers preferred his care now. "Eleanor, forgive me for what I'm about to do, but I can't live like this anymore." Early the next morning, I walked to Thomas Mitchell's real estate office. I'd known Tom since he was a boy delivering newspapers. "Winston, what brings you by so early?" "Tom, I need to sell my house." He nearly dropped his coffee cup. "Sell? Winston, are you certain about this?" "I am, and I need it done quietly, quickly." "But what about Michael and the family? They'll find out when they need to. Can you handle it? It's a beautiful property, great neighborhood. I can definitely sell it. But Winston..." "Then let's get started." A buyer appeared within 6 weeks. Young family with twin boys fell in love at first sight. "Mr. Winston, what a gorgeous home. You can feel all the love that went into it." It was built with love. Pity that love hadn't been enough to keep me in it. I signed the papers on a Friday afternoon. Cash sale, quick closing. I walked out of Tom's office with a heavy heart but clear purpose. 1 week to vacate. 1 week to say goodbye to 4 decades of memories. I went home and acted perfectly normal. Nobody suspected a thing. I spent that weekend quietly taking inventory of my life, sat in my rocking chair one last time, breathed in the scent of Eleanor's roses, touched the walls I'd painted, the floors I'd refinished. Every corner held pieces of my heart. Ethan found me Sunday evening sitting alone on the porch. "Grandpa, you seem sad. Are you okay?" I looked at this boy I loved so much. How could I explain that his grandpa was being erased from his own story? "Just thinking about life, buddy." "Are you thinking sad thoughts?" "Some. But that's okay. Sometimes we need to think the sad thoughts to find our way to better ones." Monday morning arrived like a judgment day. I rose before dawn, made my coffee one last time, strong and black, Eleanor's way. I drank it slowly, memorizing the taste of home. I packed one small suitcase, a few clothes, important documents, Eleanor's photo, our wedding rings. 42 years of life reduced to what would fit in carry-on luggage. At exactly 2 p.m., the new family arrived. The boys raced around the backyard while their parents signed final papers. The American dream, beginning fresh in my carefully tended home. "Mr. Winston, thank you for taking such good care of this place. We promise to love it like you did. I know you will. Make it your own. Be happy here." I was standing on the sidewalk, suitcase in hand, when Michael's car pulled into the driveway. The look on his face when he saw strangers at our front door, like he'd been hit by lightning. "Excuse me, there's been some mistake. This is my family's house." The man showed him the deed. "No, sir, we purchased it from Winston last week. Everything's legal and final." Michael turned to me, his face a mixture of shock and betrayal. "Dad, what have you done?" "I sold my house, son. But where are we supposed to live? You have Harold. He'll take care of you all." Rebecca came running from inside, face flushed with panic. "Winston, you can't do this to us." "Can't I? I spent 42 years building a life for this family, and you decided I was inconvenient." "Dad, that's not what we meant." "Isn't it? Then why was my place going to Harold? Why do my grandchildren run to him instead of me?" For the first time, Michael had no quick answer. Maybe he was finally seeing what they'd done. "Dad, I'm sorry. We didn't realize. We can fix this." "No, Michael. You made your choice. Now you get to live with it." I picked up my suitcase and walked toward the waiting taxi. Michael followed, his voice breaking. "Dad, please, where will you go?" "Somewhere I won't be in anyone's way." "But we need you." "No, son, you needed my house, you needed my money, you didn't need me. I climbed into the taxi and looked back one last time. My family stood on the sidewalk like survivors of some natural disaster. Harold was arriving home from the store, groceries in hand, walking into chaos he'd unknowingly created. "Where to, sir?" the driver asked. "Greyhound Station, please." I didn't look back again. If I had, I might have weakened. I took a bus to Sarasota, Florida. My cousin Betty lives there in a retirement community. She helped me find a small apartment in a complex where asking your age isn't rude and being alone isn't treated like a disease. That's where I am now, 2.5 years later. I visit Eleanor's grave every month. I had her moved here to be near me. I bring fresh flowers and tell her about my new life. She doesn't answer, but I feel her listening. Michael tried to track me down for months, called Betty, sent letters through old friends. I didn't respond. What would be the point? Some bridges once burned can't be rebuilt. I've made friends here. Other folks who know what it's like to be set aside by the families they raised. We sit by the pool, play cards, share stories about grandchildren who've forgotten our middle names. We've become our own kind of family. Do I have regrets? Only one, that I waited so long to choose myself. I'd rather live my final years with dignity intact than spend them as a burden in the house I built with love. You know something? We spend our whole lives building families. We work extra shifts, skip vacations, sacrifice dreams for their future. But sometimes the family we build doesn't turn out to be the family we deserve. I chose my self-respect. I chose not to be disposable. How about you? Have you ever felt replaced by someone more convenient? Ever watched your own family forget your value? I may not respond to comments, but I read everyone. You've become my chosen family now. People who understand that getting older doesn't mean becoming invisible. The house I built with these hands is now home to a young family with big dreams. I hope they find more happiness in those walls than I did toward the end. Harold got everything he wanted. Instant family, ready-made home, grandchildren who call him by name. I hope he appreciates what fell into his lap. As for me, I'm not going back. That bridge is ashes. Sometimes you have to burn bridges to prevent yourself from returning to places that no longer serve your soul. I'll ask you this. Would you have done the same? Or would you have stayed and swallowed your pride? If you have elderly parents or grandparents, please remember, we're not just old bodies taking up space. We're living libraries of love, walking histories of sacrifice, breathing testimonies to decades of devotion. Don't let anyone become invisible in the home they built. Don't let anyone become a ghost in their own story. Thank you for listening to an old man's tale. Sometimes we need to know we're not alone in our pain. Sometimes we need to hear that choosing ourselves isn't selfish, it's survival. Have you ever felt invisible in your own home? Ever been replaced by someone more convenient? Share your story below. Sometimes knowing we're not alone in our struggles is the first step toward healing.